So I'm super excited to show you the flowers that we have here. And that's one of the main focuses, right? Of as much as I would love vegetables to be the main focus, flowers are what really bring the grounds to life. And even in the spring, so I try to stretch from the earliest as I can. So we have snowdrops right in the beginning of the year coming in the end of March. And then we have everything to the mums all the way to the end of the year. So I try to get the entire longest season as we can in northern Minnesota, right? So we do everything from planters, and these planters, again, I start early, and I'm super thankful for the folks at Bending Birches. They let me start them still when it's snowing outside, and they'll take care of them for me in the greenhouse so they can grow. So by the time they get here, they're nice and they're full and they're lush and everything like that. So, and then everything else, when I come back from my, winter snooze, I get everything planned and set. What flowers we're gonna have, where they're gonna go, and how many we put in. I mean, this year, I think we put in maybe 300 flats of plants this year, and that's just on this half of the property, of course, because of course the formal garden is under construction this year. But we had hundreds of flats of flowers going, and it was so much fun. We try to pack everything in super tight. We want color as vibrant as possible. When I look at photos from when Bob was running the gardens back in the day, one of his trademarks was, packing everything in as tight as possible. When you even in the black and white photos, you can tell that, he must have just planted everything just right next to each other because everything looks so full in there. And when I started here, I didn't quite understand that concept, because when you're usually a home gardener, you're like, I have a budget. You could run yourself out of house and home. I think a lot of gardeners know this, especially if your spouse is like, okay, So, usually when you're a home gardener, there's kind of a wallet stop for you there, and there's also just a time limit. But we work on this 40 hours a week, and there's 5 of us working on it. That's tons of hours. So we have the opportunity to kind of replicate what Bob would have done and pack in as much color as you can. So in this upper bed here, we grow every single year zinnias, and we grow them from seed. So some people call them zinnias. We call them zinnias here, but we grow them from seed. We keep our seed every single year. Because there's lots and lots and lots of zinnias up there. And this year I decided to pack in lots and lots of snapdragons because they're kind of a fan favorite. Who doesn't love a good snapdragon, right? And in the midst of the snapdragons, I actually have a up and coming rose display. It just needs to mature. So on the side closest to us are going to be older roses that were on the original historic list that work for our zone. And then on the tennis court wall back there are going to be newer rose varieties to show people the difference between roses, how far we've come along. But I think when people think of roses, they think of a single stem rose you can buy at your grocery store or whatever. A lot of Valentine's Day thoughts come to mind, but there's a wide variety of roses. So that's an up and coming display. I think like in 3 years, it should be pretty prime. And then in the lower bed behind me here is going to be the original rose garden, where we do have some of the original roses. The Harrison yellow is one of them. It blooms quick, but it is a beautiful rambling yellow rose. It's fantastic. You don't blink because it'll disappear right before your eyes. And also in that bed, now we have a polyantha rose that was bred by the University of Minnesota, and it's so much fun. So instead of having one big flower, it's a bunch of little flowers that make up a cluster. And it's called the Northern Accents Collection. If you know the Sven and Ole stories, maybe some folks have been up to Grand Marais to eat at Sven and Ole's. They're just, old bad jokes, and so there's Sven, Ole, Lena, and Sigrid are the names of the 4 roses up there that we host in there. And they were given to us to test, and they've thrived so excitingly. So they're a rose that technically don't need any work. You can let them go. You don't need to wrap them or anything. So I said, okay, we'll throw them in the ground and see what happens, and they're thriving, and it's so much fun. So we kind of get to mix the old with the new in this. A lot of people ask me, especially with the flower plan, do I go exactly off of the plan that was originally here? And it's one of those unfortunate things, again, for this side of the property, there weren't planting plans as so much as there was in the formal garden. And the formal garden, especially now after its reconstruction, will be more based on a plan from 1907. But in here, again, I go off of very, not blurry, but very grainy black and white photos. There was no 4K, no HD back then. They didn't have like 5 cameras on one camera back then. So I kind of try to parse out what some of the flowers are and bring them back in here and see if we can just recreate mostly the sense, mostly the feeling. So when you walk through here, I want you to have the feeling that a family lives here, a family shows off this place, that the flowers mean something to the family, that it's worthwhile, So the last thing I'm really excited about this year is that I decided to implement a cut flower garden in the midst of the vegetable garden. One of the things that is on the planting sketch is actually closer to the house, but still in this garden along the edge here. There was supposed to be a cut flower garden, and they had cut flowers inside the greenhouse as well. There used to be, once upon a time, back in the day, they would have flowers in a lot of the rooms in the house. So you need to have a very large cut flower garden, because I don't know if you know, but this house is quite large. There's lots of rooms in this house that you need to fill with flowers. So these days, I can't have live plants in the house. We try to keep the bugs from being inside the house to preserve the collection as best as we can. But having a cut flower garden and being able to have cut flowers inside of our admin buildings is really, really fun. It's so much fun to practice bouquets and everything like that. And I'm learning still on that, but it's been such a fun process.
So do you actually have that now already, or is that in the future?
No, so it's here. So in the midst of this garden, it's in the front corner of the way. So one thing that's blooming right now are the sunflowers, and they're such a delight. They're so cute. And dahlias will be coming up next. I decided to have a nice, solid dahlia patch. They're so neat. They last long into the fall. I mean, if anybody's never seen a dahlia, I mean, you gotta look it up. They're a little bit of work, so you need to dig them out of the ground for us up here and store them for the winter, but it's worth it every time.
Emily, with all of your beautiful plants, do you have trouble with critters?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been here for 5 years, and I'm still looking for the magic answer of how do we make peace with the animals that want to eat everything, and it's so tough, right? So in our flower beds, one of the main issues I have is going to be with our hosta and our daylilies. So deer love hosta, and it must be just like candy to them, because they'll just go ham on it, right? So we spray for that, and the thing about spraying for any critters is that if you're going to spray for the long term, right? And even though it says, stays on after rain, I would just recommend spraying after rain anyway. But you need to switch up what you're spraying with. You need to give them a different scent. You got to let them know, you got to keep them on their hooves. You can't just let them think that this smell starts to become okay, right? And then around our vegetable gardens, with things that do need to be caged off, we do put a fence around each and every one of them. The rabbits still sneak their way in, but I can make peace with a few rabbits versus letting everything kind of wander through here themselves. And this year, I tried something new, and it worked out quite well. I have garlic, potatoes, and onions in an open garden without putting a fence around. I was like, we're gonna risk it, and we're gonna see what happens. So far, so good. The potatoes are coming along. They've started nibbling at the tops of the potatoes, but we're good. We're doing good so far. So I'm going to see kind of how far I can push those boundaries of, do I need to have fences on every single garden?
Is there or are there any plants that were originally grown here when the Cogdens were here?
Yeah, absolutely. And none of the vegetables, of course, because they're kind of annual-esque. But we have currants, and we have gooseberries, and we have rhubarb that are original to the house. And it's like the coolest thing in the world, because they're so old, they're so mature, and they're so delicious, and it's really, really fun to keep those going on.
Thank you so much, Emily, for preserving this history and this beautiful place and for showing it to us.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me. This was really awesome.